touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen. Why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kusa. You ain't here for my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. See a bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all in Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get mad. So nefarious how they don't roll my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threat.
This is the sound of
It's a cut on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threat. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece, this time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' be. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine, you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans, and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine, you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me?
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is your Daily Vitamins. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. All right, so let's get ready to get into it. All right, hello, Mel. Nessie X is in the house. All right, Perplexed. Okay, let's get into it. Christopher, 504 NOLA. All right, G from the land. Khalid is here. Nessa G. Hadassah is in the house. We the people. Byron, DSB. All right, let's get into it. 504 NOLA. Desmond, Mel. Shout out to my moderators. Y'all know they be putting in work. Okay, Volvo to Love is here. All right. With that all being said, hey, Terry Hinton, Deronda. Okay, Claudette. So Dangerous is in the house. Okay, so before we get into it, let's have a brief word from my sponsor. You all know the routine. And then we're going to get into it. Hey, Shalabit, Khalid, Harleem is in the house. Buckhorst DC. Okay, let's get this party started. Likes up, everyone, please. Don't forget to like and share. Also, please double check and make sure you're still subscribed, especially if you have not been receiving notifications.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
All right, so don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes hair oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crafts, and you can also find it at Walmart.com. Okay, so let's get into it. Now, I have several nefarious stories we're going to talk about, and then we're going to talk about Trump and these SNAP benefits because they actually went to court today. Okay, and so let's get started with this first story about a man named Jonathan Mitchell, okay, who was buried. The cops caught his parents burying him in the backyard. Okay. Now he was autistic and he had some sort of illness. I forget the name of it, but he had some sort of illness that made him, really small for his age. He didn't look like a grown person. He had some sort of illness that just made him, not have the ability to grow, okay, to his normal or to a normal physical size. So let's talk about it. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance. Okay, I'm going to share my screen.
Two parents are in the Johnson County Jail accused of burying the body of their adult special needs son in their backyard. Police said the investigation started during a welfare check after they got a tip that the 26-year-old man might be dead. Fox 4's Deion England joins us live with details. Deion.
Hi there, Clarissa. More questions than answers. Burleson police here tell us that there was conflicting information about the young man's death. Now, the two people closest to him are facing charges.
The conflicting information definitely led us to believe that something was not as it should be.
A welfare check led to the disturbing backyard discovery on White Oak Lane in Burleson.
Jonathan Kidman's body was exhumed and transported to the Tarrant County Medical Examiner's office.
The 26-year-old special needs son of renters December and Jonathan Mitchell was buried in a shallow grave. Concerns from some who know the family prompted police to inquire about Jonathan Kidman's whereabouts. Police say the couple acknowledged he had died. They say from there, the information was vague.
The first information was that she said that he was taken to Hughley Hospital and pronounced there, and we followed up with that, and that was not correct.
Do you remember seeing Jonathan?
Never saw him. That's the thing. Nobody in the neighborhood ever saw him. So,
But you knew he lived there?
no.
Neighbor Judy Harris says she and her husband were baffled by the heavy police presence in early October.
They'd been there all night. We didn't realize it. And there's just one police car after another. There's 6 police cars and 2 medical examiner cars sitting out front.
Police say a shallow grave found in the backyard soon became the focal point. Investigators say it is unclear how long the special needs victim had been deceased and buried.
The mother, December Mitchell, and stepfather, Jonathan Mitchell, were arrested and charged with tampering and fabricating physical evidence with intent to impair human corpse, a second-degree felony.
Police say the victim lived with a condition that impaired his growth and contributed to other health issues. A statement from the family of Jonathan Kidman includes, "We were horrified to hear the news about our precious Jonathan. This is a living nightmare for the Kidman family. Please know that we are in full cooperation with law enforcement, and we will fight for every last ounce of truth and justice to come to light for the sake of our sweet boy." Neighbors, meantime, are trying to make sense of it all.
If it was natural causes, then they had nothing to fear. They should have called the police rather than taking him into the backyard and burying him.
Now, police say as the investigation continues, both December and Jonathan Mitchell have bonds set at $250,000. That's the very latest. Clarissa, back to you.
Deion England live in Burleson. Deion, thank you.
Okay, so now what do you all think is up with that? Do you think that maybe he passed away and they just buried him themselves, or do you think they did something nefarious to him? Okay, because I have several questions. Why were they burying him in the backyard? Okay, like he was a dog or a cat or something. Now, songwriter Sonny, you need to sit down somewhere because songwriter comes in here talking about, I came in to hear someone died from a welfare check and thought snap is getting drastic. Songwriter Sonny, please stop. Now, you know darn well it wasn't literally a welfare check. You know darn well. Okay, DSB says you got to be a wicked mofo to harm anyone, especially a special needs person. I absolutely agree, beloved. That is so sad. You know, condolences to the family that cared about him. Okay, the people that are actually the ones who sent the police to do the welfare check. Okay, at least they cared about him. Look at everybody laughing at songwriter Sonny's nefarious self. You're right, Byron. He is nefarious. Okay. Now, with that all being said, they're probably not going to be getting out of jail anytime soon with a $250,000 bond each. Okay, because if they had that kind of money, they wouldn't have been living where they were living, is all I've said. Okay, so anyway, with that being said, let's move on to the next story. That's very sad. But here's another sad story. And this one just really made my blood boil. So this teenager raped, no, I don't know if he's a teenager. I think he is. But anyway, he raped two teens, 16 years old, okay, R-worded them, and then he's going to avoid jail time. Now, he literally tried to kill them. Okay, he literally tried to kill them. And if you ask me, being a serial killer expert as I am, and I don't say that to boast, well, actually I do, but seriously, being a serial killer expert, I think that he probably is someone who would progress into that, because he not only assaulted them, okay, R-worded them, he strangled them while he was doing so, and to the point of unconsciousness, and then took out a camera to record what he was doing to them. The police found the recordings in his phone. So this is all very sick, okay? These are the things that serial killers are absolutely made of. Okay, please pay attention. Now let's get into it. I'm going to share the screen. Hold on. Let me make sure I have the right video. Okay, I was like tripping. I thought I had the wrong video. Okay, here we go. Yeah, it is demonic behavior. Absolutely.
In the Trump America, rape is now legal. When you allow a 34 times convicted felon and court-adjudicated sexual assaulter into the highest office in the land, you give permission to other lowlifes that their actions are acceptable.
Warning, trigger warning. What I'm about to list out for you is very uncomfortable to say and to hear. A police affidavit says a girl who's identified only as LS because she's a minor dated Jesse Butler for about 3 months, starting in January of last year. She was 16 at the time. And during that time, the victim said Butler repeatedly raped and attempted to rape her and would strangle her if she refused. The teenage girl needed surgery to repair the damage done to her neck by the strangulation. And her doctor told her that she would have died had that strangulation lasted another 30 seconds.
Now, do you all hear this? Now, he strangled her to the point that she had to have surgery to repair the damage. So obviously, he must have damaged some of the bones, some of the small bones in her neck. This is crazy. And to think that he's not going to prison. Okay, he was facing like 80 years. He's not going to prison. This is absolutely egregious. But let's keep going.
The girl said that she gave in to Jesse Mack Butler because he threatened to kill her and he threatened to kill her family if she didn't give in. A separate affidavit says in March of last year, Butler took up with another 16-year-old girl identified only as KS. And that relationship lasted 6 months, but this teenager also said that Butler was aggressive and violent with her and says she went along with all the unwanted sex to avoid being hurt further. This victim also said that one time when she did refuse, Butler strangled her too. But get this, he recorded himself strangling her until she passed out. And lest you think this might be just a he said, she said, police later found that video on Jesse Mack Butler's phone. So that's what we call evidence. Jesse Butler pleaded not guilty to everything, as was his right off the bat. But in the coming months, for reasons that I will not pretend tonight to understand, the DA's office struck a deal with Butler's lawyers to change his status from adult to youthful offender. The victim's family's begged the DA, please do not do that. Please, no. But in July, a judge decided to sign off on this. And in August, Jesse Mack Butler changed his plea from not guilty to no contest, meaning he knew there was ample evidence to convict him. And you should know that a conviction is the result of a no contest plea, right? That's what you get, convicted. By the way, I mentioned there were 10 counts before, but by August, there was one more. So the grand tally now stood at 11. The new count was for violating a protective order, which, oh my God, facing 10 felony counts and violating a protective order should have been a hell of a red flag for anybody. Somebody. But the very same day that happened, Butler was sentenced to 78 years in prison, which sounds like a fitting punishment for somebody who nearly kills 2 teenage girls and rapes them repeatedly with all sorts of things. But as a youthful offender, Jesse Mack Butler was also entitled to special treatment, like a rehabilitation plan, which was drawn up by the Oklahoma Office of Juvenile Affairs, and that plan was presented to the court last week. This new punishment called for daily check-ins, weekly counseling, a curfew, no social media, and 150 hours of community service. Bam!
Now, do you all hear this? Instead of getting 78 years in prison as he deserved, he gets 150 hours of community service. Okay, and I want you all to think about this. How crazy is it? This is absolutely infuriating. Okay, imagine being the parents of the girls who this happened to.
They really brought down the hammer, huh? 150? Oh, that's like 3 weeks if you work really hard. This new plan is scheduled to stay in effect until Jesse Mack Butler turns 19, and that, my friends, is less than a year from now. So, wow, long punishment.
You know what?
I find that absolutely egregious. But hold on, there's more. There's more. Let's go to this next video where they give a little bit more insight. Okay, now this is from Law and Crime. So I'm going to put an overlay on the screen. Okay, here we go.
Job done. Angel Soft.
Well, if this don't set you on fire, I guarantee your wood's wet, because it makes you upset. Anybody that listens to this is going to be absolutely upset.
There is outrage in Oklahoma right now as a teenage rapist who could have gotten almost 80 years in prison for violent attacks instead doesn't have to spend any time behind bars at all. He is being called the new Brock Turner, as you have parents, community members, at least one lawmaker, they are crying foul over this sweetheart deal. We are going to be sitting down with a content creator and reporter who has been covering every aspect of this case to try to figure out what happened here. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. A high school baseball player out in Stillwater, Oklahoma, just accepted a deal that means he won't spend any time in prison after pleading no contest to some of the most heinous charges there are. Charges like rape, forced oral sodomy, assault and battery by strangulation. According to graphic arrest affidavits that were filed in Payne County, Oklahoma court, then 17-year-old Jesse Mack Butler targeted at least 2 teen girls that he dated. And many of these accusations, they are right out of a horror movie, okay?
Now, I haven't watched this video. I just grabbed it because I saw that he was going to talk about it, and I know they give further details on Sidebar. But here's the thing. Do you all remember? Well, first of all, before I get to that, did you all notice that on News Nation on the report, she said that he R-worded them repeatedly with multiple things? Didn't she say multiple things or different objects or something like that? So what was he exactly doing? This is also sick and disgusting. But also, do you all remember Albert Wilson? The case of Albert Wilson, the Black college student from University of Kansas, who was sentenced to over 12 years in prison. In 2019, they accused him of R-wording a 17-year-old girl. Now, the only thing that he did was kissed her on the chest. Okay? The sentence received significant public attention and controversy, especially since the charge of kissing in some news reports was misleading. They say in September 2016, he was 20 and she was 17. They met at a bar. Now, remember, they were both underage and had both obviously used fake IDs to get into there. But the DNA testing from the Kansas Bureau of Investigation found Wilson's saliva on the girl's chest, but no seminal fluid. Okay? And then an all-white jury convicted Wilson of rape. And he was sentenced to 12 years in prison. Okay? Do y'all remember that case? And this devil does this, and then some people who look like us or look like me want to say there is no such thing as white privilege. Okay, please make it all make sense. But let's continue.
So now, before we dig into this, before we dig deeper into these affidavits, I got to tell you a little bit more about Butler, who turned 18 in August. So he attended Stillwater Public Schools, played for the high school baseball teams and other regional outfits. This is according to reporting from the Daily Mail. Stillwater is the home of Oklahoma State University, and Butler, by the way, comes from an influential sports family. The Daily Mail reports that his father, Mac Butler, was the OSU football team's director of operations from 2001 to 2004, and then again in 2009 until 2021. He was then hired as the assistant athletics director for Stillwater Public Schools. Butler's mother, Jackie Butler, is a coordinator for Cowboy sports properties at OSU. This is again according to the Daily Mail. Family members of Butler's victims described him as seemingly like, quote, the perfect boyfriend when he dated their 16-year-old daughters. But these affidavits, they reveal that behind closed doors, Butler was essentially a violent predator who refused to be told no. I'm going to take a look at this paperwork, okay? Now, we're not going to be getting into some of the more graphic parts of the affidavits, but this will give you an idea of the grave seriousness of this case. Now, according to the first affidavit, a 16-year-old identified by her initials LS told a school resource officer in September of 2024 that she had dated Jesse Butler for a few months earlier in the year, and that during that time, he physically and sexually assaulted her multiple times, including trying to rape her inside his car outside of an ice cream shop the previous February. LS reported she yelled and told him no repeatedly and tried to push him off of her, but was unable to overpower him. LS reported Butler told her he was sorry for what he had to do, but he had to do it. LS recalled hyperventilating because Butler intended to have sexual intercourse with her and she did not want to. Now, according to LS, a woman must have heard her screaming because she walked up to the car and interrupted them. LS told police that Butler told her that if the police came, they would both be in trouble. He reportedly took her back to his home where her car was parked and then tried to rape her again. The affidavit says LS told Butler she needed to get home, but Butler pulled her on top of him and told her, "You're not going until I'm finished." LS said she was eventually able to get out of the car and get home. Now, the victim told police that Butler forced her to perform oral sex on him in the parking lot of a Planet Fitness despite her saying no. And unbelievably, during the assault, the affidavit says that Butler took a call from his mom, told LS she had to be silent or he would hurt her. There's another assault that happened at Butler's home in what's referred to as a movie room. According to LS, she believes Butler's mom heard her crying and saying no as Butler tried to have sex with her. And she apparently came to the door asking if everything was okay. But it seems that's as far as this mom's interaction went, because the affidavit just says that Butler drove LS home at that point. Except he didn't take her all the way home. No, he apparently parked nearby, tried to sexually assault her for nearly 2 hours. The affidavit says that when she finally managed to get to her house, he followed her and continued trying to assault her inside of the home. And the abuse just kept getting worse because, according to LS, in late February of 2024, Butler reportedly strangled her because she refused to have sex with him. So the affidavit says, quote, LS reported she was hyperventilating and then recalled her vision being blurry and she was dizzy. She reported her head immediately hurt and she was confused about what occurred. She was scared of Butler, but when she regained consciousness, Butler was laughing at her. Following this incident, LS reported she had a handprint and injury on her neck. Now, LS was examined by a sexual assault specialist, confirmed the teen had been a victim of sexual and physical abuse. This is according to the affidavit. I gotta say, by the way, this is a prime example of what we try to do here on Sidebar. We're trying to understand the legal system. We're trying to understand the law. And I have to say, I am so happy that this show is sponsored by legal experts, Morgan & Morgan. On her hips from squeezing her so tightly. KS reported the intercourse was extremely aggressive, but she reported she quickly stopped fighting it because Butler would overpower her and hurt her to get his way. KS explained she learned what to do and not to do to avoid being hurt by Butler. According to KS, Butler would pin her down and she was physically unable to get him off of her. KS stated this would often lead her to hyperventilate, which Butler thought was funny. So not only is it horrific, but you're seeing how these accounts are very similar to one another. Now, according to this affidavit, Butler also strangled KS, and so bad, so long, that she eventually passed out. She reported she woke up on the floor of the living room in a house where she was apparently house sitting, and she claims Butler was livid that she wouldn't have sex with him in someone else's home. But after strangling her, KS claims Butler raped her 3 or 4 times. Later that same week, KS reported that Butler strangled her again. And if it's possible to even believe this, it was an even sicker power play. The affidavit says KS stated Butler told her he wanted to strangle her so he could film it on his phone. And if you can believe it, police found that video on Butler's phone, which showed him choking KS until she passed out. What these girls went through, what they endured, is just unimaginable. But then you get to the consequences, and that too is seemingly unimaginable. Why? So Jesse Butler was charged in March of 2025 as an adult with 10 felony counts. We are talking rape, we are talking attempted rape, sexual battery, assault. He was later hit with an 11th charge when he apparently violated a protective order. He was facing almost 80 years in prison for these crimes. He ended up entering into a no contest plea, okay? This is where everything changes. This is where the big shock comes when he entered that plea in August. His case had apparently been downgraded from adult court to youthful offender status. And because of that, he would spend no time behind bars. So instead of his 78-year prison sentence, that was deferred. It's deferred as long as he complies with his, quote, rehabilitation plan. According to News Nation, until his 19th birthday, Butler has to do these daily check-ins, these weekly counseling sessions.
Now, what I want you all to pay attention to is they're talking about these counseling sessions, these weekly check-ins, the community service, all of these things he has to do, but he only has to do them until he's 19. He's already 18, and he'll be 19 in a few months. Okay, in about 6 months, he'll be 19. So this isn't even a long punishment for what he's got to do. I just want you all to pay attention. This is all so crazy. Like, this makes no sense. And how can you just get away with letting someone? Why didn't they charge him with attempted murder? Because he literally tried to kill the both of them. There were 2 victims, and between the 2 of them, there were 3 strangulations. Also, he violated the restraining order. Okay, this is all sick.
He has a curfew. He isn't allowed to be on social media. He has to complete 150 hours of community service. And if he does that, no prison time. The district attorney's office released this statement per the Daily Mail. The youthful offender sentence imposed against Jesse Butler requires him to complete his rehabilitation plan successfully, including an aggressive schedule of therapy with a specialist in sex offender treatment. And should he fail, he faces reclassification as an adult and a sentence of 10 years in prison. So this complete 180 on punishment for this apparent sexual predator, as you can imagine, has caused quite the outrage in the city of Stillwater, and now across the world as the story spreads. There are calls for the judge who approved this plea deal, Special Judge Susan Worthington, to be reprimanded, to be removed for okaying this. And even the state's legislature could possibly be getting involved here. Oklahoma State Representative Justin J.J. Humphrey appeared on Ashley Banfield's show on News Nation this week, and he is fired up.
But I keep coming back to how it happened. Sir, do you think that the courts are corrupt? Is that how you think that this deal was maneuvered?
Oh, absolutely. We're working on grand juries right there. I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. I think we're going to see more cases like this. I think we're going to see I'm working on a case that may be as shocking as this. We're trying to get the Payne County grand jury because of this kind of action. And so, yes, I mean, absolutely, there's a lot of problems. We're meeting with, you know, great resistance from their court and from our Oklahoma government. I mean, we're meeting with great resistance on trying to get that grand jury and hold these people accountable. So again, until they're held accountable, the laws are there, but what do you do when they you know, don't follow their own rules, when they don't follow justice? They took an oath to justice. Does this sound like justice? And again, here's what I'm saying. Shouldn't we investigate? Should we not investigate? Was there political favor done here? Was this done as a result because of positions the father has or because people knew each other? I would think that it would warrant investigation. And again, it's all allegations. We don't know what happened until we go in and investigate it. But golly, I'm mad as all get out. And we're trying to have other things there in that same county investigated. I mean, very, very corrupt things going on in this county and really across the state. There's all kinds of things.
Aunt Edna's is...
Justin Shepherd, host of Just in the Nick of Crime. So happy to have you on here to talk about this. You've been following this case closely. You helped shine a national spotlight on this. How did you first hear about this case?
So actually a friend of mine, another mutual social media creator, he goes by Missing in USA. Literally his content is all, for the most part, missing people and stories, and they work behind the scenes and actually research this stuff. He lives in Stillwater, and he sent me this story, and that night I was actually getting ready to go live on YouTube to talk about three different cases. And I was like, after I read that story, I was so enraged that I was like, I'm going to scrap what I'm talking about right now because these cases have been, you know, cold for years. And we're going to talk about this. And I was infuriated. I called a friend of mine who's an attorney. I was like, hey, can you hop on right now? Because I want to talk to you about some stuff, ask some questions. So she did as well. And then from there, apparently I opened the floodgates in Stillwater, Oklahoma. You know, from there, I got it sent over to the people over on News Nation. It's like, hey, you guys might want to talk about this. But basically, Dan had initially sent me that story and was like, something needs to be done about this. But when you see somebody getting charged with the charges that he had, and we can get into those a little bit more here in a moment, but originally being sentenced to 78 years and then walking away with 150 hours of community service, that is just a miscarriage of justice. There's just no other way to look at it.
I haven't seen anything like this,
either.
Anything near this. And from your research, from speaking with experts, from speaking with attorneys, what's the rationale here? What have you learned here about how this is even possible? Because I will tell you, there is a lot of speculation online right now that the Butler family may have connections that may have helped him get this so-called sweetheart deal. We couldn't confirm that. What can you tell us?
So I've spoken with some of the families as well of both victims who came forward against Jesse. There is a third victim who, she hasn't come forward, but can you blame her when you look at this as the justice that they get? So there's a third victim. And kind of like you said, the speculation is that Jesse Mack Butler's father is a man by the name of Mack Butler. And he was the head of football operations at OSU for, I forget how many years, but for a pretty long time. He's, you know, kind of a staple in that community. And when we're talking about Stillwater, Oklahoma, we're talking about OSU, for people who don't know, Stillwater is the town that Oklahoma State University is in. So there's a lot of things tied to that. You know, Mack Butler, it seems that he grew up there. His wife currently works for OSU. His daughter works for the public school system there. He was apparently had been hired as like a coach of some kind for Stillwater High School as well. So somebody with deep-rooted ties into the community, and that then leads you to the judge in this case, or one of the judges in this case, Judge Susan Worthington. Between her and her father, the Worthingtons have had a hold on that bench for over 50 years. So while you can't necessarily say definitively that, hey, there's this connection here because he's deep-rooted in football, you know, she's a judge, they all grew up in the same town, that there's this kind of connection, but it's not really many difficult mental gymnastics to make that leap, right? That, hey, this is a town that requires the probably going to be doing something today on it or tomorrow, but
change the definition of what rape means to include digital penetration.
Now, for those of you who don't know who this is Brock Peters, the person that I have referred to, not Brock Peters, Brock Turner, the person who I've referred to on a few occasions where he raped someone and he didn't get any jail time either because the judge didn't want to ruin his life. Okay, please pay attention.
So there was an outcome there, but I feel like that's a fair kind of comparison, no?
I think it's a great comparison because you have, rape by instrumentation, which is pretty much the same thing as, digital penetration. And I agree with you. And I think that with Brock Turner, who, by the way, I have been told, I've not researched on my own, that he has changed his name to Alan Turner so that I guess he can survive a little bit better. That was another travesty just because these girls, they have to live with this for the rest of their life, what happened to them. And these people get off scot-free. What kind of message does that send? And I think that when you look at somebody like Jesse Butler, I agree with you. And, you've covered enough cases. I've covered enough cases to know that people like this, they reoffend. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And I know that I believe that we both know some of the same people. And Gabby Petito's family, they've really gone into domestic violence awareness and things like that, changing the law.
Okay, I'm going to stop right there. But at the end of the day, this is all so sad that these young girls at their ages are going to have to go through all these years of trauma, counseling, I'm sure. And then there's a third victim. There could be a fourth or fifth victim for all anybody knows, because this is something that, he is a serial rapist. How much you want to bet? We will be hearing about him again in the future. And here's what's going to happen. The next time he does this to somebody, he's going to murder them. He's going to go all the way through and make sure they're dead. And you know why we know he's going to do that? Because when he does it again, and he's going to do it again because he's a psychopath. He laughed at her pain, okay, when she's hyperventilating. He's done it multiple times. And at the end of the day, there are other victims who haven't even come out or afraid to come out. One that we know of, but there's probably even more. Who knows? But at the end of the day, right, Sierra said he was doing it for years. I absolutely believe that he was doing it for years, and he is not going to stop. You see, here's the thing about sexual deviants, because that's what he is. These people are deviants, okay? And they don't get rid of the things that drive them to commit these deviant acts. That doesn't just go away. Okay, that does not just go away. And then you know that he's sick because he actually recorded it. He actually recorded himself doing this. So he derived some sort of sick pleasure from what he was doing to them. With that all being said, he's absolutely going to do this again. He's a serial rapist, in my opinion. Okay. And like I said, the next time he's going to be killing people because he's going to make sure he leaves no witnesses behind. Because if you remember the case of Christopher Barrios, who was 6 years old, and he was assaulted. Okay. This little boy was on his way to his grandmother's house after school, was abducted and raped by this grown man and his grown son. The father who did this had actually done it before and had only been given 10 years probation, not prison or jail time. And so what do you think he did? Because he was on probation. He didn't want to face those 10 years. He killed this little boy. And that's what he's going to do. Okay? That's what he's going to do. I promise you. We will be hearing about him in the future. Jesse Mack Butler. Don't forget that name. And then the nerve of Brock Turner. I keep thinking of Scott Peters, but the nerve of Brock Turner to change his name. Okay? I hope nobody forgets his face. These people are demented. Absolutely demented. Now, with that being said, let's talk about this Black woman who was shot 6 times by a cop. Okay? 6 times she was shot by a cop, and she lived to tell the story. I'm going to go to the press conference in a minute, but hold on. Let's talk about this. So, Detroit cop will be held accountable after shooting a woman during a traffic stop. Okay, according to the chief. Now, do you all hear that? This was during a traffic stop, not while she was in the commission of a crime, like robbing a bank, breaking into somebody's house. No, a traffic stop. Now, who besides people who look like me do you know they get this kind of treatment at a simple traffic stop? But let's get into it. I'm going straight to the press conference. Likes up, everyone, please. Like and share. Thank you in advance.
of the media, thank you for coming on short notice. Today, I have called you all here to discuss the officer-involved shooting that happened on yesterday's date, which was Sunday afternoon in the 11th precinct area. Normally, I would not do a media briefing on an OIS, officer-involved shooting, during this short of a time frame. But this morning at my senior management meeting, I was able to review the body-worn camera, and at my briefing yesterday at the scene, I updated you and stated that the information was fluid, preliminary, and that I had not reviewed the camera footage at that moment. I was able to review the body-worn camera footage from the shooting officer and wanted to ensure that, as promised, I would give you all an update. I will not be releasing the body-worn camera footage today because I do not want to jump in front of the Wayne County prosecutor, which is standard in an officer-involved shooting. We will be submitting a warrant request, as we always do in all of our officer-involved shootings, and the investigation will be led by the Michigan State Police Department. But I do want to update you and walk you through what transpired to give you an update. After reviewing the body-worn footage, I can tell you that yesterday afternoon, our officer was out on routine patrol in the area of Van Dyke and 8 Mile. He observed what he deemed to be a traffic violation and conducted a traffic stop. The driver of the vehicle, which was driving a black Dodge Durango, complied with the officer and pulled over her vehicle immediately. At this point, the officer exited the patrol vehicle and approached the driver's side of the Dodge Durango. The officer identified himself and gave the reason for the traffic stop. The driver strongly disagreed with the officer as to the reason. The officer asked the driver for her license, registration, proof of insurance of the vehicle. The driver requested for the officer's supervisor numerous times, including at one point, the driver called 911 while the officer was standing at the vehicle. The officer requested backup to the scene for support. Once backup arrived, the officer physically opened the driver's door in an attempt to get the driver out of the vehicle. The officers were unsuccessful in their attempt to pull the woman out of the vehicle, and she was pepper sprayed by one of the backup officers. She then closed her door and the driver drove off from the scene. The officers pursued the Durango up Van Dyke for approximately 1 minute until they boxed in her vehicle a short distance down the road at Concord and Outer Drive. At this point, the officer which fired shots, we'll call him the shooting officer, jumped out of his vehicle that was parked in front of the Dodge Durango and began ordering the woman to exit the vehicle. The driver, as it is shown in the video, began try to drive her vehicle out of the box. While the Durango was driving away from the scene and past the officer, he ordered the woman 2 more times to get out of the vehicle before he fired multiple shots into the Durango. The shooting officer then jumped back in his squad car and pursued the Durango with the backup units following behind. They pursued, ultimately ending at the Detroit Police Department facility. The driver was shot a total of 6 times. Officers rendered first aid. Medics were called. They transported the woman to a local hospital. The woman was released from the hospital and subsequently taken to the Detroit Detention Center. This morning, I ordered her released from the Detroit Detention Center immediately. I want to talk about the policy violations. This incident.
Hold on. Listen, some of you all are going in on this chief of police. Some of you all are going in on him. Natasha says no camera. Yes, there is camera. He just explained, beloved. You may have missed it, but he literally just explained why he's not releasing that as of yet. But if you ask me, this man is doing his job. Okay, this man's doing his job. He's already holding the officer accountable. Now, I would have appreciated if they had shown us the man's picture, told us his name, but I'm sure that information will eventually come out and we will also see the body camera footage. But he's already holding him accountable. And he did tell them to release her from jail. Because I'm sorry, but a racist chief of police would likely have let her stay in jail and charged her with trying to assault those police officers. Okay, please pay attention.
Has policy violations in multiple areas. I find them concerning. The Detroit Police Department, first of all, should not pursue, and we
DSB, I wasn't talking about your comment. I know you said he was talking a lot. No, I wasn't talking about that comment. Some people were calling him a raccoon. And I don't feel like he's a raccoon because he's doing what he was supposed to do. This is how it should always go. You know, some of these cops, they are chief of police or sheriffs or whatever, they will very often cover for these officers who do the wrong thing. They will make excuses for them. And when they violate policy, they will not call them out.
Have a policy against vehicle pursuits for traffic. Our policy states that we will pursue individuals that have committed violent felonies only, violent crimes. DPD also has a policy against a procedure where you box in a vehicle. One vehicle in front, one vehicle behind, in an attempt to stop it from moving. I repeat, DPD we do not shoot at moving vehicles unless it is an extreme circumstance where life is at jeopardy. As an officer, we are trained to de-escalate situations. Failing to request a supervisor when one is requested falls in line with the citizen complaint. She requested a supervisor multiple times. I want you all to know that I am preparing to submit to the Board of Police Commissioners to have the shooting officer suspended without pay immediately. And again, a warrant request will be submitted to the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. This is standard. The actions of the officer in violating our policy is not consistent with what should be done. The officer will be held accountable for that. An internal investigation is going to be headed up by the Homicide Task Force, which is led by the Michigan State Police Department. The driver, as I stated, has been released from the Detroit Detention Center this afternoon and will not be facing any charges from this incident. The Detroit Police Department has policies in place for a reason. We are a constitutional police department, and I definitely will hold officers accountable for policy violations. At this point, I'll open it up for questions.
Okay, so you all heard that. Leon said there was more than one cop. Yes, of course. That's why they boxed her in. That's how they boxed her in. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, at the end of the day, that's all crazy. Okay. But I'm glad that officer is going to get what he deserves. And here's the thing. Though they haven't charged him yet, I'm sure they're still investigating and gathering evidence or whatever, but he's on administrative leave with no pay. And usually we already know that they do get paid. It's like a full-on vacation. So he's not being paid, and I'm glad to hear that. Okay, so that all being said, let's continue because the next thing is Clarissa Shields. I am so disappointed in this young lady. Okay, I am so disappointed in this young lady. Now, she has been saying some disparaging things about Laila Ali, and there is absolutely no need for it, in my opinion. Okay, there's no need for it at all whatsoever, in my opinion. I'm going to go to the Breakfast Club because they reported on this earlier and they have all the audio, so I didn't have to look for it. Okay, so that's what we're going to use, and I'm going to just use an overlay. Actually, I'm going to use, I'm going to use an overlay. Likes up, everyone, please. A like and share. Thank you in advance. Give me just a sec. Okay, here we go.
Nothing.
Ready. Okay.
You know ESPN at Dell State?
Yes, I've been
Oh, that's
telling you it was coming this
dope.
week. First Take is there. They're going to be at the game tomorrow. Norfolk State versus Delaware
game.
State.
Family who built America.
Yes. And make sure things. So Clarissa Shields has taken her time to respond to Laila Ali. And at this point, y'all remember last time we talked about this because Laila Ali said she was going to answer the question, but didn't fully answer the question of whether they're going to fight or not. I think what we said before is true. I think that they're drumming this up for a fight. I've asked, but of course, they're not going to tell me that. And I'll give you the reason why after we take a listen to all these things. So let's take a listen to Clarissa. She posted a 20-minute YouTube video. And in that video, she starts off by clarifying how the beef started and how we even got here from her point of view from Laila's Breakfast Club interview. Let's take a listen.
Before this interview on the Breakfast Club with Laila Ali, me and her were very friendly. This is what ignited the entire beef.
Well, I don't think there's anyone there for me right now that would actually give me a good challenge. I'm not somebody who sits back and complains about things. I think everything happens in due time. You got Clarissa Shields now, who's an Olympic champion. She's a young black girl, came out of Flint, Michigan, lived a hard life, went through a lot. She went to the Olympics, won twice. Women's boxing wasn't in the Olympics when I fought. She actually fights at the weight class I fought in. And she's doing great. Women's boxing is getting some good attention.
She claims that I took this out of context. And
Now, before I continue, I want you all to pay attention to what is being said. So this is why Clarissa is offended, because Laila Ali, she was basically complimenting her, saying that she's doing very good and they were in the same weight class or whatever. But she also said that there was nobody that basically could compete with her. That's what Laila said. So Clarissa was offended by that. Now, do you all think that was something for her to be offended by? Just ask yourselves. But let's continue.
one thing I will say, she wasn't just saying that I wasn't good enough to inspire her and to give her a challenge. She was saying that all the women who were currently boxing could not give her a challenge.
Yes. So then she goes into, because you remember in Laila Ali's video, she said, look, I gave her advice. I supported her. I did all these things.
Yeah.
Clarissa Shields says that advice was not good advice. It was actually body shaming. Let's take a listen.
Laila Ali came to the Olympic Training Center where I was training for the Olympics at, and me and her developed a big sister and little sister relationship. And now I wonder if it was even genuine because she gave me bad advice. She told me to stay amateur and win as many Olympic gold medals as I can because there was no TV exposure and no money for women's boxing in the professionals. I went against her advice, and I was the first woman to make $1 million in women's boxing.
Well, I ain't hear the part about the the body shaming part, but what if we speaking on that? She was telling her like to tighten up, like, you know, muscle, you know, you're a little loose, you know, you got a little cellulite.
Well,
going on.
I have Layla's the advice Layla claims she gave to her, which is what she posted in her first video from 12 days ago. And I think it was to that point of like to tighten up. But let's take a listen to Layla's words.
Now, someone's gotten way too comfortable dragging my name and even using my father's name to get attention and clout. Now, in case you haven't heard it, her story is that I didn't support her and I didn't pass the torch because of my jealousy and envy over her accomplishments in boxing. She says that I disrespected her and I started talking about knocking her out simply because I was bitter that she's outdone me. When she asked for advice, I gave her valuable branding advice and boxing advice. I told her about the challenges that I faced fighting at 168, where there was limited competition, and I suggested that if she decided to turn pro, she should consider going somewhere around 148, where she would have more competitive challenges. I told her she should hire a nutritionist, trim off that excess body fat, and get into elite next level shape. I pointed her in the right direction. And I had high hopes for her. But of course, at the time, I was not aware of her divisive, vindictive, and malicious nature. And she's been on a mission to ruin my reputation ever since, simply because she heard me make a comment that was not about her and she took it personal.
Yeah, so that is advice that Layla, that was 12 days ago.
I don't think that's body shaming, right?
No,
if I'm a
not.
boxer, you're a
It's like
boxer, I'm
just
saying
telling you,
straighten up.
Trim some of the excess fat off.
If that's the case, then my trainer, Dr. What was Chuck Norris? Chuck Morris?
This is just so sad because Clarissa, in my opinion, Clarissa sounds like she's insecure. This is what the mind of an insecure person, this is how they would interpret this. Laila never disparaged her in any way. She was giving her good sound advice. She was telling her what she went through. I mean, it's good that she went ahead and got into the, followed her own thoughts and dreams, because she said she's the first woman to make $1 million in boxing. Okay, that's great. But that doesn't mean that Laila Ali was trying to tell her something, to hold her back. It doesn't mean that she was jealous. That's just crazy. And in fact, I believe that Clarissa is the one who's jealous. Because why are you going in on this woman? Even if you thought that she gave you bad advice, even if you felt like she body shamed you, because you just took it, the wrong way, out of context, in my opinion. Well, why are you still talking about it? Why are you still trying to antagonize this woman? I think she's the one who's jealous, and it's very disappointing for me because I have always, been somebody who cheered her on, especially when she was going through that stuff with Remy Ma. But girl, you sound like a whole hater at this point. Okay, leave Laila Ali alone. She's the GOAT. All right? And yes, I said GOAT because that's what Clarissa calls herself.
Chuck Morris,
he be body shaming me all the time.
I know.
With your arms.
That's why you got your nose up? Take a little fat from around the nose. Then you get a little fatty.
Okay, so anyway, I'm gonna stop right there. Okay, they're not talking about anything else after that, but I just find that very interesting. How could you think that she was saying something against you when she's only trying to help? And it just goes to show, beloveds, that there are some people you just can't help. Sad but true. Some people you just can't help them. Okay, now let's get into this whole thing about Trump, because you all, Trump was in Japan the other day, and he was looking real crazy, walking around like he was lost in the sauce, didn't know where he was going or what he was doing or why he was there. They had to lead him around. Now, I'm not saying Trump has dementia, but he just might, because something ain't right. Okay, please pay attention. And they were going in so hard in the paint on Biden. Okay, let's get into it. I'm going to share my screen. Likes up, everyone, please like and share.
Donald Trump was just caught on camera looking lost as he aimlessly walked around a ballroom in Japan with the prime minister. She literally had to guide him around the room, and the Trump team is not happy that this clip went viral. Just take a look. What? Yeah, that's the Prime Minister of Japan saying, "Let's go, Grandpa. Why are you standing there?" She had to guide him around this room in the ceremony that they were hosting for him in Japan. And as I said, the Trump team is not happy that this video went viral. One of their Twitter accounts responded by saying, "Why didn't you share the full video, dumbass?" So clearly they're upset, but the full video doesn't make it look any better. We'll just take a quick look at some of it and you can see what I mean. He has no idea what's going on. He has no idea.
He's just wandering aimlessly. Look at him. Just bad state of affairs.
The soldier had to guide him at one point because he was just aimlessly walking around. If that was Joe Biden, Republicans would be freaking out, but they're not because it's Trump. So clearly this has gotten under their skin, and it would be such a shame if you shared that clip around and it went more viral.
Did y'all hear that? I find it all so interesting. And by the way, did you all know that a woman accused an ICE agent of Essie actually assaulting her, and now she's been deported real quick, fast, and in a hurry? Okay. We'll talk about that in another broadcast. But so anyway, with that all being said, let's talk about SNAP, because they went to court today. Okay, they went to court against Trump today for the SNAP benefits, the refusal to give them to the people. So let's get into it.
Suspension of federal food stamp benefits. Half of U.S. states are suing the Trump administration to stop federal food aid from being cut. All but 2 of those states, Nevada and Vermont, have a Democratic governor. Let's bring in CBS News correspondent Nicole Valdez live for us from Nashville, Tennessee. Nicole, Tennessee isn't one of the states that's suing to get SNAP funding. So how are leaders there responding to the possible lapse on November 1st?
Well, certainly they're still sharing their disappointment in the ending of those benefits starting at the beginning of November. Governor Bill Lee is actually in Asia right now working on several meetings with business leaders there who are hoping to bring in really companies to the state. But he issued a statement before his departure saying really trying to prepare Tennesseans for the loss of those benefits. Now, there are many on the Democratic side of at least the House here in Tennessee who are urging him to call a special session to vote on whether or not to use emergency funds to cover that lapse of benefits until the government shutdown is over. The governor made very clear that that is not something that the state is prepared to do. In a statement he released, he said in part that the SNAP program is a federally funded and operated program, and Tennessee is, quote, unable to utilize state dollars to provide the benefit and does not have the mechanism to load benefit onto customer cards. Those are those EBT cards that those SNAP recipients use. Of course, that does not necessarily make everyone here happy. The Democratic caucus chair of the Tennessee House of Representatives, that's John Ray Clemens, wrote to the governor and said this is imperative that we come together, take immediate action, and appropriate sufficient funding, adding, choosing to stand idly by while children go hungry is unacceptable, Liz.
Now, with that all being said, C-Stan says blessings. Thank you, beloved, and blessings back to you. And thank you for your contribution to the channel. Peace, love, and blessings. Now, I want to say this. I told you all on yesterday that Trump and his administration are full of crap. They're sitting there saying they can't use this contingency money for SNAP to cover it. They're acting as though it's all because of the Democrats. But at the end of the day, I played you all the video. And for those of you who missed it, I played the video of Trump literally saying that there were Democratic programs and things that they put in place that his administration has already wanted to cut, and now they're cutting them. Okay, so they're cutting the SNAP program. That's what they want to do. This has nothing to do with the Democrats. They want to cut this program. They want to get rid of it. That's why Trump said some of the programs are being cut and they're not coming back. Okay, and they're sitting there telling this lie about they can't use that money, but they absolutely, because according to my research, the government can use contingency money for SNAP as the funds are intended for emergencies like a lapse in funding. Though there is currently a dispute over this. Some officials argue the funds are not legally available for regular benefits in a shutdown, while others point to a prior USDA plan and legal analysis that supported using them. Okay, contingency funds are specifically designed as a safety net for emergencies like a government shutdown. Okay, where regular appropriations have lapsed. So what are they talking about? They're lying. The USDA has previously stated that these funds are available to continue paying benefits during a shutdown, according to a since deleted shutdown plan. Why was that plan deleted? Well, because it told the truth. Because it told the truth. Okay? That's why some states are suing over the decision not to use the funds, arguing it violates the original congressional intent and the text of the appropriations law as noted, okay, in a noted in CBS News. The current administration has stated that contingency funds are not legally available to cover regular benefits during the shutdown. Now, the rationale is that contingency funds are in finite source, and using them for regular benefits would pull money away from other critical programs like school lunches and infant formula. Now, I want you to pay attention to how they put that in there. They said two things that we know are very important to Americans. School lunches, because people want their children to eat, and infant formula. So they slid that in to make it look like, hey, y'all don't want us to just give them this money because they're not getting their food stamps. We've got to feed the kids that are going to school. And what about the infants who mothers can't afford formula? See, that's the play right there. Okay, please pay attention. Honey, this is nothing but a whole con game, in my opinion. And quite frankly, I'm glad they're being exposed.
So many people in that state rely on those SNAP benefits. I'm curious, what are communities doing to help?
Yeah, nearly 700,000 people in this state alone use those benefits. And of course, local food banks, nonprofits, they recognize that that is a lot of people, a lot of families that may not know where their next meal is going to come from. So what we've seen is really a lot of those same organizations planning several food assistance events, whether that's a community drop-off, encouraging those who maybe do have enough to give to donate to those food banks, and then in the aftermath, those really pickup events. So those SNAP recipients who may start to lose their benefits at the start of the next month can go by there and pick up an extra box or two of food to hopefully hold them over, again, maybe until the shutdown is over. I will note, though, that those SNAP recipients that do have money left over from this month can still use that money in the month of November. But as you can imagine, probably a lot of families may not have that option or would have very little time with anything left over, Liz.
Yes.
Okay, so you all heard that. Now let's go to the next report where they're talking about them going to court on today.
President Trump still cannot deploy the National Guard to Portland, or can he? One of your top DC Daily headlines for October 29. Day 29 of the government shutdown, now 1 week away from becoming the longest shutdown in the country's history. Next, Vice President Vance says military troops will be paid today, but thousands of other federal employees are missing their paycheck. Vance didn't offer details, though, on how the military will be paid. 25 states are now suing the Trump administration to use $5 billion in SNAP contingency funds to pay November SNAP benefits. And Republican Senator Josh Hawley introducing a bill to keep SNAP benefits funded throughout the entire shutdown. A Chicago judge telling the Border Patrol commander in Illinois she does not want to see agent disturbances around children on Halloween after video appears to show agents throwing tear gas without warning at a children's Halloween parade. Today, Border Patrol Commander Dan Bovino will be in court for a 5-hour deposition about agent excessive use of force accusations. And it is the first of every weekday he now has to report to a Chicago courtroom to give the judge a full report on his actions and the actions of his agents for the day. He must also give the judge all use of force reports and body cam video for the last 2 months by Friday. President Trump still cannot deploy the National Guard to Portland, even though an appeals court sided with the administration to allow it. The full Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals will now reconsider the decision announced that was made by a partial appeals court panel allowing the deployment. And today, the federal judge who originally blocked the deployment temporarily will hear arguments about whether the block should be permanent.
Okay, so with that all being said, let's go to this last report on this, where basically this senator was saying, these young men need to get up and go to work, okay, instead of worrying about food stamps. D Major Scaling says California, Colorado, Maine, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, New Mexico, New York, and Vermont all have universal school meal programs, blue states. Okay, thank you for that insight into the topic, beloved. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. And also, thank you for your contribution to the channel. Okay? Okay, so let's get into it. Here we go.
Democrats are getting a little bit tight right now. It's their constituents, a lot of them, that in some of these inner cities that's going to need SNAP to survive, and they're getting a lot of calls, and the pressure is going to be put on them. A lot of people need to go back to work. A lot of young men that are on SNAP that should be working.
Wait. Anyhow.
Wait, no. Let's let that sink in. Mike, yeah.
Tommy Tuberville, the guy who held up the appointments in the Pentagon for several months out of Senate procedure.
Yep.
I don't know that he knew a lot about football, given his overall coaching record.
Wow.
But I do know that he knows very little about American culture, American employment, and how the Congress ought to operate.
And the SNAP program and who it helps.
Are you talking about the young men in his state?
Yeah, I mean,
for example?
that's what I'm saying.
I mean,
that's what we've been saying is, again, is Tommy Tuberville thinking he's talking about people that live in Brooklyn? Or is he talking about people that live in Demopolis, Alabama, that live in Bessemer, that live around Birmingham, Mobile? I mean, you're like, this is the ignorance of a lot of these Republican leaders, Willie. They think that they're owning the libs when, in fact, it's their constituents who disproportionately take from the government. It's their constituents who disproportionately, as far as tax money goes, who disproportionately are impacted by Medicaid cuts. It's his people that are going to be just completely hammered by SNAP benefits. I know Alabama. I love Alabama. You don't have to drive too far out of Mountain Brook to understand there are a lot of good people in Alabama that need Medicaid, that need SNAP benefits, and a lot of them are people that voted for Donald Trump. That's the ignorance of all this.
750,000 people in the state of Alabama are on food assistance. That's 15% of the population of the state. That's a lot of people. Did he just lecture? And it's also, there was some code in there. It's not just the people who didn't vote for him, who he's suggesting to go out and work. It's people who support him, who support Donald Trump, who rely on the government for rural hospitals, for food assistance, all this. So this position of, like you say, kind of owning the libs.
Yeah.
These are your constituents, the people who rely on you to get them the benefits they need. It doesn't make sense.
Do you think Tommy Tuberville could tell you what the WIC program is?
No.
Women and Infants?
No.
Do you think he could tell you the impact that program disappearing November 1st would have on his constituents? No.
And he's running for governor. He'll probably win.
So,
This is just all so egregious, honey, at the end of the day. And speaking of the WIC program, you all do know that the Black Panthers came up with the WIC program, right? And started a breakfast program for kids. Y'all know that, right? Yeah, of course you do. Okay, so now with that all being said, let's talk about these prosecutors that have been put on leave. And why have they been put on leave? I'm so glad you asked, beloveds. Well, because they dared to go after two people that Trump pardoned from the January 6th riots. Okay? They were trying to send them back to prison. That's what they were trying to do. And for good reason. The Department of Justice put two prosecutors on leave for pursuing a prison sentence for a pardoned January the 6th rioter. I'm sorry, it was only one rioter that they were trying to send back to prison. But it was two prosecutors. And now, like I said, they're on leave. So let's get into it. It looks like Trump's regime, or his United Reich, as he likes to call it, it looks like they're going after, it looks like they're giving, they're trying to keep the criminals out of jail. This is what it just seems like, that they're trying to keep the real criminals out of jail and then put innocent people in jail to turn them into criminals. That's what it looks like.
We have more breaking news. Another potential purge at the Justice Department. 2 prosecutors are on leave now after pursuing a prison sentence for a pardoned January 6th rioter who was convicted after carrying illegal guns outside former President Obama's house 2 years after the Capitol attack, so unrelated to January 6th. Joining us now is MSNBC Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Dilanian. Ken, what more are we learning about this decision and the case at the heart of it?
Good morning, Anna. This appears to be another example of the attempt by the White House to rewrite the history of January 6th, because what appears to be at issue here is this sentencing memo. These 2 prosecutors referred to the January 6th attack as a riot. They referred to the defendant here as one of the rioters who attacked the Capitol on January 6th. And that is the kind of language that the White House doesn't like, because they are arguing that that was not a riot on January 6th. And so, as you said, this man was convicted of a separate offense. He was pardoned by Donald Trump for his role in January 6th, but then arrested because he brought illegal guns to Barack Obama's house in Washington, D.C. And he was convicted of that and also of threatening to bomb a government building. And last night, these 2 line prosecutors in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington, D.C. wrote a sentencing memo explaining his conduct and calling for the judge to impose a 27-month prison sentence. But they also included that paragraph about the Capitol riots. And they were locked out of their offices and devices. They were walked out of the U.S. Attorney's Office. They've been placed on administrative leave. And the news of this move is reverberating around the Justice Department. And it's another warning that you can't, as a prosecutor, tell what you believe is the truth about the January 6th riots without having some risk to your future and your job on it.
Ken Dilanian with that latest reporting. Thank you.
Okay, so just a darn shame. And then here's the thing. Like I said, Trump's just letting criminals out on the street. These people who caused a whole insurrection at the Capitol, trying to overthrow the government. Clearly, that's what they were doing. These people are domestic terrorists, but Trump wants to let them out. And then also, there's another one of them that was pardoned January the 6th, and he threatened Hakeem Jeffries. Now, you heard this one, who was pardoned, showed up at Barack Obama's house with guns. What do you think he was planning on doing? Okay, and then what's this other one doing, threatening Hakeem? Let's go to the video. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance.
Moynihan of Dutchess County, New York, was on the Senate floor, rifling through desks and helping seize control of the Senate dais on January 6th. Sentenced to 21 months in prison in 2023 and pardoned along with more than 1,500 other Capitol riot defendants on Inauguration Day this year by President Trump. Just 9 months later, Moynihan is back in jail. He allegedly sent text messages last week threatening House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries, writing he must be eliminated. I cannot allow this terrorist to live. In noting Jeffries had an upcoming speech in New York City. Jeffries was at the Economic Club of New York Monday, one day after Moynihan was arrested.
What do you make of it? The person accused of threatening you is the recipient of one of those blanket pardons.
I think the reckless and irresponsible pardons of hundreds of violent felons on January 6th has consequences.
A CBS News review found a surge in threats against members of Congress this year, more than 14,000 investigations so far, which surpasses all of 2024. Former federal prosecutor Mike Romano warns some politically violent actors risk becoming repeat offenders.
They're still likely talking to some of the same people. The motivations and the social organizations that encourage them to commit violence persist.
CBS News found a half dozen other cases in which pardoned January 6 rioters have been arrested again in the past 9 months, including allegedly for breaking and entering, for theft, and for child abuse. Nate. Christopher Moynihan of Dutchess County, New York was.
Okay. You all hear that? Many of them have been rearrested. And it's no shock because I reported months ago how one of them was arrested shortly after he got pardoned. Okay. Just rearrested right after he got pardoned. All right. So anyway, with that all being said, this is all crazy. So everyone, please like and share. Corey Thomas says, stop all that talking and just fight, period. Shields is jealous and Laila is scared. Corey, you sound like my grandmother. My grandmother used to say, One of them scared and the other one's glad of it. But I don't think that Laila Ali has anything to prove. Laila Ali is like 47 years old. Clarissa is 32. Honey, I would not be fighting her at 47 and she's 32 with those hands that she has. Okay? Because Laila Ali has already built her legacy. She didn't have anything to prove. She didn't have anything to prove, in my opinion. Okay, Timothy said, I've heard enough, and I have too, beloved. Okay, so listen, Leon said, exactly. Okay, Mel said, you're right, Queen. Thank you. Purple X said she doesn't have a darn thing to prove. Exactly. She's already the GOAT. Like, Clarissa needs to sit down somewhere. And like I said, it's really sad. I'm now wondering, is Clarissa some sort of narcissist? I don't know if she is, but I'm just wondering because this almost seems like, this is like what narcissists do. Someone gives them a compliment, but they'll find some way to see see something negative in it and something that was meant to be for good. How did she feel like she was being body shamed? She just told you to tighten up so you can get to the next elite level. Girl, you should have just done that. Kept your mouth shut and said thanks for the advice. Saying this woman gave her bad advice as if Laila was trying to sabotage her career. Okay, it's all crazy. I feel bad for her if that's how she really thinks. Okay, I'm inclined to think that perhaps Clarissa is trying to use Laila Ali's name just for clout. I don't know, but it's very strange. Okay, it is very strange. Anyway, with that all being said, I'm out of here. Listen, I love you guys. I appreciate you for tuning in. Please like and share. Also, listen. Let me just tell you all something. I'm thinking that I may start back going live on the backup channel, especially when I talk about certain things. So maybe they'll leave this channel alone because they literally have unsubscribed so many people. Like I told you all days ago, I had 10 emails of people saying they were unsubscribed. Well, then yesterday I got like 6 more. Okay. And then when I look at the numbers, there's like so many people missing. I mean, there's like so many people unsubscribed. Okay. And if people want to unsubscribe, that's on them. They should be, of course, they're able to do that. But YouTube should not be unsubscribing people. All right. Just because they don't like the Queen's talking points. And I want you all to pay attention. I'm not the only one this happens to. You hear other members of the New Black News media saying the same things happen to them. Like my dear sister, Lisa Cabrera, a true royal. Okay. Professor Black Truth, I believe, has said things about that as well. Okay, Black authorities. So y'all need to pay attention, honey. They really be going hard on us, mad because we're telling the truth and talking about racism and wanted supremacy and police brutality. When you talk about those things, well, sometimes it's going to be an issue. Okay, and I don't think that it's necessarily YouTube themselves, but more likely people who work for YouTube. Because the people who work for YouTube, yeah, they watch our channels. Okay, they absolutely do. All right. And I know that because I have a friend who works for YouTube. So when these things are happening, it's usually racist, hateful people who work for YouTube, So anyway, there's that. Okay. So clearly shadow banned, honey. Perplex said, I believe that, Queen. Yeah, it's just what it is, honey. But the Queen ain't going to stop. I'm still going to be on here talking about what I talk about because I need to bring awareness, okay, to my people. So that's what I'm going to do. But like I said, after maybe next month, I'll start doing some of this stuff on the backup channel. Okay. Danger said the wizard behind the green curtain. Exactly. Okay. So anyway, with that all been said, I love you all to life. Okay. D Major said the Queen can't stop, won't stop. Exactly. Okay. So I love you all to life. I hope you enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Peace.
Gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the Queen. Why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunsa. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. See a bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all at Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get madder. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threats. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece, this time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I